Welcome to Unboxed. I'm your host, Connie Nam, the founder of Astrid Miyu. In these conversations, I speak to founders, investors, and creators who are all breaking boundaries in their space to discover the person behind the brand and what it took for them to build their empires. I get countless questions from early stage founders, and I wish I could answer them all in person. But here I've categorized them into 3 different buckets, which I'll share with you in the next few weeks based off of what you've sent. And today I'm going to talk about building a consumer brand, specifically building a cult brand. Hey, Unboxed listeners. This episode is brought to you by Payhawk, a company that we at Astrid Miyu cannot stop raving about. Remember when we used to waste countless hours on expense reports and spend approval ping pong? Those days are long gone, thanks to Payhawk. No more receipt chasing or drowning our finance team in paperwork. Now we can focus on what truly matters, growing our business. They've helped us create what they call a healthy spend culture. Our team doesn't stress about how, where, or when they can spend because it's all pre-agreed. Talk about a weight off our shoulders. Are you curious to see Payhawk's gold standard solution in action? Their company cards app and spend management platform could revolutionize your business too. Visit the link in our show notes to book a demo. And don't forget to mention you heard about them on the Unbox podcast. A huge thanks to Payhawk for supporting not just our show, but also Astrid Miyu's growth journey. Here's to smarter spending and time back in all of our pockets. First question, where did you start? So I started in my bedroom in Notting Hill. It was a tiny bedroom. I knew exactly what I wanted to sell. I knew there was a gap in the market for demi-fine jewelry that was affordably priced. At that time, you could find, now there are so many cool brands, cool jewelry brands, which is great. Back then it was Topshop, where you get very trendy jewelry, which would break after one night out, or you'd have to go to Cartier or Tiffany and get expensive jewelry. So I knew there was a concept. So the first thing I did was I found a supplier back home in Korea, and I happened to find the supplier who really believed in my vision. I was able to produce every single design in like no minimum quantities, which was so fortunate. So it's really important, whether it's supplier or anyone that you work with, to sell your vision and find these people that will believe in you so you can get on with the business without a lot of resources. So I was very fortunate that I found that supplier. And then the first thing I did was build a website. For £500, I found a friend of a friend who built a website off of a platform called OpenCart, which crashed all the time, by the way. So I had to rebuild it. But anyways, like I spent very minimal to launch the brand. And the biggest investment I made at that time was hiring a PR agent because I didn't have marketing expertise. And I knew from working at LVMH that marketing and PR are so important. And when I met the PR agents, they were very young, they were starting out as well. They were very excited about the brand. So they also bought into the brand and the visions, and this was a priority for them. But initially they said, oh, it will take like 3 to 6 months for press to pick up. But we were, I guess it was a sequence of luck in launching the brand, but in the first 2 weeks, big publications, so specifically Grazia and Stylist, which were huge at that time, picked up our products, and those specific products just sold out, which was insane. So that gave me confidence to keep on going with the brand. And in terms of logistics, I bought a DSLR camera and I shot everything on my body parts. So I wasn't showing my face, but I shot my wrist, shot my ears, shot my neck, and uploaded on my own. And I went to the post office every day. I only had 1 or 2 orders a day, so it wasn't that difficult. And I made best friends with the post office man. So I basically did everything from A to Z. Second question, how do you decide how much product you need to buy in advance? So very early stage, you just don't know because you don't have an audience, you don't have a demand. So you buy as little as possible. So you need to, like I said about my supplier before, you need to find that supplier that will allow you to order very minimum quantity. So you can have 1 or I don't know, like 10 or 20 and upload on the website to test. And eventually, when you get to a certain stage, you'll be able to predict that demand better than I guess you plan 10 to 12 weeks in advance, depending on how long your supplier takes to refill your order. And then next question, how do you find manufacturers if you need them? Oh, so there's so many ways you can find manufacturers these days. First, you find an industry fair. So, like with jewelry, for instance, there are so many jewelry fairs out there. There's one in Vicenza, there's one in Hong Kong, there's one in Paris. So find those fairs and go to them. But do pre-research because you'll be swamped with sea of suppliers. So do some research because normally on their website you have that supplier list. So go into their website and see whether it's the right fit, and then try to book meetings with them in advance so they know who you're about before you go. Second, you can just search on LinkedIn. A lot of suppliers and manufacturers are on LinkedIn doing their business development. I mean, I get approached by suppliers all the time on LinkedIn. So do your research there. And then third, so some of the brands disclose who their manufacturers are. So that's a really great way because it's vetted already. So if you want to start with a reputable manufacturer, go into a brand in a category, a brand that you admire, and see whether they have their suppliers disclosed. But key is making sure that you find the right fit and working with suppliers that really buy into your vision, that will back you no matter what. Next question. How do you create and find market data? Google is a great source. Just Google it. I Google everything and then try to delve in thereafter. And McKinsey website is a really great source for market data because they do so much consumer research and they're all available for free. It's like high quality data. And then if you're in fashion or beauty, Women's Wear Daily, Business of Fashion, or Vogue Business are really great resources. And if you have more resources, WGSN is a great resource. Our product team and creative team are on WGSN all the time to predict the market and predict the trends. Next question. Drop shipping versus buying stock in advance. It really depends on what you're selling. For me personally, I like to buy the stock in advance. I like to have that stock because customer service is so important for us. And we're in sort of a, I guess, mass luxury segment where people wouldn't wait for our products. And we want to be able to fulfill our customer needs immediately. And we have all these stores where people walk in and they want to take something. And we also have a lot of international customers coming into the store. But it really depends. If you're selling engagement rings, the customer wouldn't expect you to have everything ready. And it would be very, very costly for the business to stock all of that precious gemstones and precious metals. And same thing with furniture. If you had all the stock, the warehousing cost would be massive. And people don't expect to get furniture straight away. So you don't need to do that. So it really depends on what you're trying to sell. Next question. How important is the product versus branding? Ooh, this is a tricky one. I'm going to get into trouble with my product director and my CMO if I answer this wrong. I mean, like the product needs to absolutely be the foundation. You need to have a good product. And a lot of the times when founders found a business, it's out of a product need. So product needs to be the foundation. But thereafter, I'll just tell you what I personally did. I knew exactly what I wanted to sell and I had a clear vision. But I spent a lot more resources and time and energy into building the brand and building marketing. Because even if you have a great product, ultimately, if people don't know about you, you don't have a business. So that's my answer. I don't know whether like it answers product versus branding, but both are very important in some. Next question. How do you create cult products like your advent calendar? Ooh, first, the product offering needs to be attractive. So with something like advent calendar, for instance, a lot of brands put products that are out of season, off season, or like products that they want to get rid of. That's a mistake. What we do is we put our best sellers. So our customers are walking away with a clear proposition. We're giving them something very special and unique. We also spend a year designing our packaging and building out our product assortment. So we put a lot of energy and love and attention into building out the product. Second is limiting the quantity. We know we can sell like loads if we had everything in stock, but we just limit the quantity so it's very unique and special for our customers. Third is building up demand and building up, doing that pre-marketing before you launch. So we've put a lot of energy into pre-marketing the advent calendar. I mean, this is one example of a launch, but building up the advent calendar leading up to it. So last year, for instance, we had 30K wait list, and we couldn't serve all the demand when the advent calendars came out. So that's super important. Next question. How to make the decision to sell to consumers or business? I guess there are pros and cons to direct to consumer and selling to a business. In this case, in our case, selling to a retailer like Harrods or Selfridges, which we do. So first, direct to consumer, you own the full customer experience and the brand experience. So in that sense, that's really good. But if you're a very early stage and if you're trying to amplify the brand, it's very costly and you need a full team to build that brand out there. So eventually, when you get there, direct to consumer is great, but it just takes up a lot of time and energy from your side, and it's very marketing driven. And selling to a business, in our case, selling to Harrods or Selfridges, you can really leverage the brand of these retailers, especially if you're a young brand, and they bring in traffic and sales. And it's a really quick way to reach a quality audience without spending a lot of money. However, the cons flip side could be if you pick the wrong retailer, your brand could be lost in between all the competitors or all other brands in your category, or the brand experience might be dictated by the retailers because they're so much bigger than you. This type of selling is more driven by product and the margins you can make. And the final question I'm going to answer today is, what elements are key to building a cult brand? I think it really depends on which brand, but for me, I think there are three elements. First is purpose and mission, and second is community, and third is authentic, differentiated product offering. So first, purpose and mission. Customers really want to resonate with brands that have a purpose and a meaning behind them. So our purpose and mission is to revolutionize the jewelry experience. And everything we do, from customer services to communication to building our services or products, really lean into this one mission, to do things differently, to innovate, to really revolutionize the experience. So this kind of is inspired by my travels when I was young with my family. So I used to travel a lot around the world, and my favorite pastime with my mom and my sister, I mean, my dad would tag along sometimes, would be to go to market stalls and boutiques and find jewelry. And that was my favorite, absolute favorite, because every single jewelry had a meaning, and also the hustle and bustle and the warmth I felt whenever I went to these places were so special. So I wanted to bring these experiences into Astrid and Miyu, and that's so important. Just because when I went to the high street and tried to find jewelry on my own, the experience was not quite the same. It was very sophisticated and organized, but I didn't feel that warmth. So that warmth is very important. So find your warmth when you're building a brand. And second, community. Community is such a buzzword. And I think a lot of people mistake community to social media alone, but it's not just social media. It's the feeling that people have when they interact with you or when they walk into your store. So this is also inspired by the past. I used to walk into this very small jewelry boutique back home in Korea, and the owner was always there. She was making jewelry, and she always had different kinds of handmade jewelry. It was beautiful, but the reason I went in was because I wanted to chat to her. I loved her. She just had a beautiful aura about her, and she was building a community without thinking about it before community was a buzzword. So just making sure that you have that. There's a feeling that people walk away with is very important. And finally, authentic, differentiated product offering. You can have all the marketing and the buzz in the world, but if you don't have beautiful products that are very different, solid quality products, people won't come back to you. You have numerous brands that had a buzz that came and went. If you delve into it and dissect it, it's because they didn't have a product offering that was attractive enough for people to come back. So that's very important. That's always the base of every single brand. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back with the second episode of Q&As. But if you have any questions, feel free to DM us at unbox_founder confidential. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow me at Connie Nam, Astrid and Miyu at Astrid and Miyu, and the Unboxed Instagram page at unboxed_founder confidential. See you next week.